Welcome back to Kickback Soccer Media's World Cup Capsule. Today we're going to do things a little different. We are talking to Jaime Macias, one of the most authoritative and interesting Ecuadorian soccer experts around. He's a former goalkeeper who played for Emelec in Ecuador, and he's got an insanely deep knowledge of the history and culture of the game in Ecuador and everywhere around the world. He has been a Spanish-language broadcaster covering Major League Soccer, the Premier League, Youth World Cups, FIFA tournaments, and so much more. So instead of trying to break things down, we figured we'd let Jaime do it himself. We talked about Ecuador's tactical evolution, Moisés Caicedo's role within the squad, and the Montenegrin legend who changed the game there. It was a great chat. I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget, we are doing one of these for every single country that has qualified for the 2026 World Cup. Well, we are talking about Ecuador now. Latri, one of the has become staples of South America at a World Cup over the last 24 years. That was not the case, though, for the first 70 years of this national team. And when I thought of Ecuador and thought about this national team, there's only one person that I want to talk about it with, and that is Jaime Macias. Jaime, thanks for being with me.
Pleasure, David, talking to you as always.
Let's start big picture and let's go all the way back. The soccer history of this country. What are the flashpoint moments that sort of people think about as the game grew in the country, and what is sort of the roots of the sport in Ecuador?
Latin America, probably with the exception of Brazil, the foreigners that came especially to develop the railroads of the 1900s, they brought soccer to America. That's why a lot of the names of teams in South America are in English. Blooming, The Strongest, River Plate, Boca Juniors. In Ecuador, it's Emelec, which is, Emelec means Empresa Eléctrica del Ecuador. It's the Ecuadorian electric company, and it was an American from New York, actually, who founded the baseball and the soccer team, but the soccer team ended up being more successful. Barcelona from Ecuador has no relationship with the Barcelona from Spain. They were Catalans who founded in the name of their city. That's why they play yellow and red with the Catalonian flag, not with the Barca, with the Barca colors. And that's how soccer developed. If we have to point specific moments in history, it's Alberto Spencer, one of the best forwards in the history of Latin American soccer. That's why the top scorer of the Copa Libertadores received the Alberto Spencer trophy. He's Ecuadorian, but he developed all his career in Peñarol. Peñarol was the equivalent of what Real Madrid is today in that area. And we were very close to qualify to the 1966 World Cup with Alberto Spencer. But then we were in a no-man land because we didn't have great talent. We were so focused in who was talented until in the 1980s, Dusan Drašković arrived. And I had the pleasure of having him as a coach later in his career, and a lot of Dusan stories that people tell you. I lived them, and I'm one of Dusan's stories because I was the third choice goalie in the under 16. He arrived to the first squad as the main coach. They were playing like a friendly with the youth squad. I was running around the field because I was not good enough to be in that game. And he came and says, "Who is the chubby guy?" I said, "No, he's our third choice goalie. Tell him to come tomorrow to train with the first team." In his mind, and this is, I put this example to explain you about Dusan. In his mind, he said, like, that guy, it's 16 years old, he's 6'4". I want him in my squad. So he came from Montenegro, from Yugoslavia at that time. He's originally from Montenegro, and he reorganized how you recruit players in Ecuador. Size, speed, what position it would be. And they called him crazy because Ecuador had like a great winger in the local league, but in his book, he has to be a fullback. This guy was scoring a lot of goals as a center forward. Yeah, but he's my center back. And he basically reorganized to recruit players, to develop players. And 2 years after that, Barcelona arrived to the first Copa Libertadores final in Ecuadorian history. And that's what Ecuador changed. In the change of the century, 10 years after this, Ecuador had been in more World Cups than the one they have not been. We have a strong squad, a physical squad. We are very hard to beat. That's the guy who changed how we recruit players, how we develop players, and gave an identity to the Ecuadorian player that you can stereotype today.
Coming out of that, is there like a style or philosophy or trait when people say like that's a classic Ecuadorian player or this is what we're most proud of?
We're a physical team. We're a fast team. Like our characteristic of player have been those fast wingers, Antonio Valencia style, Edison Mendes style, and very physical number nines. We had great wingers. That was more our characteristic. And now it had shifted because we actually don't have wingers. We don't have fullbacks, and everything we have, it's more through the center, like the Moisés Caicedo type of player and that more. But I think that has to do a lot with how South America have evolved to this ever growing player transfer market, and everybody's developing players that are more valuable as a product, that they can play in multiple positions. So that's what has taken us away from specific players or functional players in specific positions.
You talk about the region, obviously. I think South America, one of the unique ones in that World Cup qualifying is so long, it's so intense, Copa America happening in the middle of all of that. And so there is like this true hierarchy and identity that exists inside of the South American Confederation. I think maybe some outsiders who are new are like, oh, Ecuador are one of the elites, right? Where does Ecuador see itself in the hierarchy of South America? And what is the perception from the country and the fans of this national team?
It's very divided. We always saw ourselves as underdogs. We are getting into this, okay, but what we should expect, right? And Ecuador has 14 games unbeaten in this World Cup. In this period. We are a very hard team to beat. Like, we have conceded like 4 goals in that period of time. So you have the voices that says like, hey, we haven't won anything. Like, right. This is great for us. This is kind of it's a positive sign. But there are the other voices that say like, yeah, but we're crap. We're not winning. Like, we're playing nothing, right? And we have Moisés Caicedo in Chelsea and Estupiñán in Milan and Hincapié in Arsenal, playing Arsenal. And by names, we probably have 4 players that are among the best in the Ecuadorian history as soccer players.
Yeah.
But I am more on hey, we don't have the squad we think we have. We have those names, but our number 9, it's still Enner Valencia, my dear friend, my roommate when we played together. But he was our forward in Brazil 2014. That's 4 World Cups away. And that's dangerous, right? Because when you have players that are playing in those big names, the expectation grows. And you lose sight of how unbalanced our team is. And there's nothing more dangerous than an unbalanced team, because everybody starts relying and overwhelming the quality ones because they are the savers. So I think that it's very divided where we are or what it's to expect.
You mentioned some of the big names. Who is the staples that have to perform, or who is this team sort of built around?
Everybody say Moisés Caicedo. And I think that probably he's the best of the generation. I think he's ahead of Pacho and Hincapié and Estupiñán, the big names of the generation. But the reality is that they play in a specific part of the field, very close to each other, far from the opponent's goal. But building a team around a guy that plays so far from where things happen, it may limit your ability to solve. They still, even though they are the best, and Moisés, I think, is the best Ecuadorian player, he still needs somebody in front of him and somebody behind, because this is a sport that is won on the areas, on the boxes, right? We have solved the defensive part. But offensively, we don't have anybody that I could tell you, yes, this is a guy we should rely on. That's why we rely on Enner, which, even though a lot of people criticize him, he still scores. That makes him also in that Mount Rushmore of Ecuadorian forwards.
Looking at Ecuador, there's going to be one obvious name who could help in that attacking phase. It's a lot of responsibility, but Kendry Páez has broken records for everything he's done at the age he's done it at. Is he the obvious name for the up-and-coming star to know? And if so, is he enough to carry this team in that phase of the field?
I think he's the obvious name. I think he's a real deal. I think that he is one of the players that has suffered the rule of that they cannot move to Europe until the age of 18, because I think he stayed a little too long in Ecuador, and that there's only one point that you can evolve in a league in South America, and you need that step. Is he the upcoming guy everybody should look? The answer is yes. Is he ready to carry that weight today? I will tell you no, and that's why they are managing him with a lot of caution. Would I expect him to be that guy on the build-up or in the next summer? I will say yes.
He is part of the Independiente de Valle Academy, which is littered over this national team and around Europe right now. Tell people about this project and how it has changed the face of Ecuadorian soccer.
So it's a project that it's not only developing players, but developing person. That's how they sell the players. One of the biggest downsides is in players that are transferred from South America, not Argentina and Uruguay, but a lot of the other countries, is how long they stay in Europe and how quickly they come back. Being able to adapt to different cultures, being able to be mentally prepared for the challenges of a professional career. So the moment you get a talented player, you know he's not going to struggle and he is going to be able to continue that soccer performance in different environments and also help them be a successful person when they stop playing soccer. So that's kind of like their 360 vision of how to develop players. Their success is developing players, selling players, developing a new generation. And that's a project that a lot of people has come, watch, try to imitate. But we have one of the most recognized teams in this model in the world. That's what people from different continents are coming and watching and trying to understand how to do it.
Talk a little bit about the coach, a younger character, not new to South America, obviously Argentine himself, assistant coach of the Chilean national team, but feels like maybe a little bit of a risk for the national team to have gone in this direction. What has he brought and what's the expectation?
It was a surprise when we went with a different route after Alfaro. Alfaro was the first non-Colombian that qualified us for a World Cup. Like, we went to the World Cup with Bolillo Gomez, Luis Fernando Suarez, and Reinaldo Rueda. That was our first 3 World Cups. In terms of understanding the environment, understanding the player, understanding the culture, they were very close. Alfaro was a little bit like very close to that because he had worked for the Colombian media for almost 15 years before being Ecuadorian coach. So even though he was Argentina by passport, he was very close in understanding that culture and how to manage our culture. But then we went like 380 degrees. We brought Felix Sanchez Vaz, who managed Qatar in the previous World Cup. That didn't go very well, and it was kind of like, what's the connection with this guy? And it didn't work. He got fired after the Copa America. Beccacece, he was assistant coach in Emelec with Sampaoli. So that's where Sampaoli big moments start. And the expectation was kind of like, okay, we're expecting a Sampaoli Bielsa style team because we have like a golden generation and this is how we're going to play. And that never happened. That never happened for multiple reasons. First, the altitude was our friend in an era where 90% of our national team play in Ecuador. We had an advantage of playing the altitude. Now our players play in Europe and we suffer the altitude more than the opponents. So with that, how you build up high press team if you are the ones suffering for the effects of the altitude? That goes against his style. Then we don't have the quality in like a front 4 or a front 3 to have that free playing style. And the other thing is that that's not our identity. Our teams that had qualified for the previous World Cups were very pragmatic teams. Solid at the back, very talented players from in the last third of the field, but we were very pragmatic. We were not a high press team. We're not an offensive team. That have us in a position where we're not moving forward. We're not moving backwards, which is a good thing, but we're not moving forward because there is a point where the squad, because of characteristics, cannot embrace what he wants as a philosophy. Coaches don't change their philosophy because coaches are like painters. They have a philosophy. That's why they are hired and that's why they are fired. And it happened to every coach in the world.
U.S., Canada, and Mexico. What's your expectation of what support looks like for this team? What should it look like in the stands for this Ecuador group?
Ecuador will always have support in the New York area. It's the biggest Ecuadorian community. There is a lot in the California area. Those are like the specific areas. A lot of people are going to travel. There are always charter flights to the cities, back to Ecuador the night after the game. The problem is that everybody's getting used to Ecuadorian World Cups. So
it's not as unique. What's the experience of the way the country watches these games, engages with this team? I think I saw something, 2006, the game days were national holidays, so people could be off. Like, what is that experience like?
In 2002, because it was in Korea, we were allowed to arrive to school late because the games were like at 6 a.m.
Right.
So instead of having to be in school at 7, we were allowed to be in school at 9. So Germany was noon, so they were national holiday. They are doing live hits from outside places, or the shows are being broadcast from there. Somebody will be outside the stadium since the night before, and you arrive there as a broadcaster 7-8 hours before the game, and so it's all this build up to this is happening, and this is the last minute, and the boss and the players are having breakfast, and the players are having lunch, and they're on the bus now, and they're talking, and they're on the way to the stadium. So that's a very South American thing that I really miss from South America. So
the league, it has strong support, right? Like the people inside the country, these teams, these games, weekend after weekend, have a lot of focus on them.
They have a lot of focus. So there's like a big regional rival. Like the big team historically have been the two teams from Guayaquil. Barcelona being the biggest team and the most successful, the big one with the biggest fan base, and Emelec had been like the second one. That's a team I used to play for. And those teams have a national fan base. The teams that were actually winning were the teams from the Sierra, from the mountain, like the mountain. But because the radios were regional, the radio from Guayaquil in the coast could be listened in all the country. So the broadcast of those games, the waves didn't hit any obstacle, and you can listen to those games in all the nation. The ones from the mountain range that were actually winning, those radio frequencies were trapped in the valley. So they were not coming out. Like nobody outside that city could listen to that. And that's how like the fan base of the Guayaquil teams grew so much in comparison to the ones from the mountain range when they were the ones who were actually winning things. So that set the tone. Then Quito is the capital. They have like the fan base is a little bit more spread because you have 4, 5, 6, which everybody, all of them had like a big fan base, consistent assistant, but none of them got the numbers that the other two, because like this is a big city with two teams, divide that number by 2, and the other one was a little bit smaller city divided by 5. But in the last couple of years, like Barcelona had been winning leagues, not at the level they did in the 90s, but it's actually Liga de Quito who won the Copa Libertadores, the biggest trophy for an Ecuadorian team. They played the final against Manchester United in the Club World Cup. They lose 1-0. They won 2 Sudamericanas afterwards. So kind of like, who are the 3 big? Everybody will tell you it's Barcelona, Emelec, and Liga. I think that historically had been in that order, and you can say that the Ecuadorian derby it's Barcelona, Liga de Quito, which was not the case 5-10 years ago.
Last one for you. What should the expectations be?
They're going to be saying that we should be at least in the quarterfinals. But no, I think that round of 16 for me, I'm happy with that.
We're looking forward to watching it go down. Jaime, we'll have to have you back on so we can talk all about it. But thank you for joining us, and let's do this again soon.
Anytime, my friend.
On the fun fact side of things, it's an obvious one. Ecuador literally means equator. It's a reference to the line that runs through it, and it's home to the Chimborazo volcano, which is the furthest point from Earth's center, making it the closest point to outer space on Earth. That's all for Ecuador, but make sure to follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast for all our other World Cup coverage.